In today's world, we sometimes don't truly understand how large some companies are. The growth of apps like Square, PayPal, and Stripe have seen wild valuations of up to $100 billion, almost as much as well-established organizations like Citigroup, meaning tech-enabled digital finance is now engulfing some of its more traditional competitors. Plaid Technologies is one of those businesses, known as the plumbing for many of the apps we use today like Acorns, Betterment, Coinbase, and Clarity Money. Some have described Plaid Technologies as being the shovels and pans of the Bitcoin, stock picking, and financial planning gold rush, the tools of the trade that help apps to identify users' bank accounts, moving on from penny microtransactions. But what is Plaid Technologies and how were they founded? They finally hit the jackpot in 2013 when Spark Capital agreed to seed the business with almost $3 million in funding. They spent this money on new engineers and software developers, reinvesting back into the business, which in turn made their software more effective and grew their client base, staying in the shadows whilst they worked on their creation. 3 years later, and Plaid was propelled into the limelight, initially announcing a $44 million funding round led by Goldman Sachs. As of 2018, Plaid started to increase its offering, launching a product called Assets for Lenders, as well as almost doubling its customer base through an expansion into Canada, their first foreign market. That same year, they also raised $250 million at a $2.65 billion valuation. They used the money quickly, acquiring Quovo, an investments-focused competitor, for $200 million. In 2019, Plaid expanded further abroad, to the UK as well as across Europe, which was more challenging than you might think. US banks develop and maintain their own infrastructure, but in Europe, banking follows European standards known as PSD2, open banking. This meant that Plaid had to launch a number of smaller, country-specific Plaids rather than layering their process into a pan-European strategy. Plaid has continued to grow and has seen increased demand as they embed their software with fintechs in the industry. This is all well and good, but how does Plaid actually work? Well, users need to connect their bank accounts to apps like Acorn or Robinhood to deposit and withdraw money. Traditionally, this would have used a legacy system, which would have meant a new connection between each app and bank. Plaid solves this by offering an intermediate connection layer through an API. Let's say someone is creating a Robinhood account to trade the markets. Once they've logged in, Plaid's code within the app takes their username and password and then packages the information to make it safer to send to the banks. Plaid then pings the bank's server to verify the account has a positive balance. The bank immediately responds to confirm the account has money in it, which authenticates the account, and the user continues on blissfully unaware that any of this just happened. Plaid then maintains the tokenized version of the login details, which is activated whenever the user uses the app. This helps to track spending limits and goals or checking identities to minimize fraudulent transactions. In essence, it acts as an intermediary to maintain relationships between apps and bank accounts. Plaid then makes its money from the fees it charges to the apps. Its freemium model means the first 100 connections with banks are free, but everything above that is paid via subscription fees and payment fees.
Does that sound familiar to you, Mr. Misty? Mr. Peanut Buster Parfait? Jasmy is about to get sent Pay attention to what's going on. Don't just look at these charts. Research. Listen to Maximus Crypto. Listen to some of these guys part of this research community. NeoX Tricks, Aussie Amphibian, Brian, Dip Metaverse, Houston. A lot of these guys are part of the community. I can't remember all the darn names. You gonna be working at Dairy Queen handing out Mr. Misty's peanut butter parfaits for the rest of your life? Having to get a second or third job working at McDonald's, flipping them burgers? One more time, let me tell you something, Mr. Misty, Mr. Peanut Buster Parfait. Better get on that Jasmy, or you're gonna regret it.
I want to give a shout out to both the one and only NeoX Tricks and also Lil Bidman, okay, for some of the research in regards to this. What am I talking about? Well, let's pull it up. Let's start things off right here. It is straight from NeoX Tricks, and like you see, he mentioned something that was posted literally yesterday. All right, kind of an update. You know, when it comes to SmartCom, this was actually posted a few months ago, so I look at it like it's kind of like an update. What does Neo mention? Well, he states here that to implement this authentication system on a large scale in Japan, Jasmy's partnering with SmartCom Laboratories. Now, some of you guys follow this hardcore on X, and basically speaking, when you get more into this and so on, you will see here that, you know, SmartCom is not something that should just fly under the radar. So another thing that's point out is that they are a leading organization in Japan. They specialize in research and development of advanced communication tech and IoT solutions. They're also known for their innovative approaches and expertise, if you will, when it comes to the whole thing of creating cutting-edge systems that connect various infrastructures to IoT in Japanese society. What's society? Society 5.0. As I got more into this, Lil Bidman chimed in about this back on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And what's most important about all this is some upcoming dates coming up here really, really soon, guys. So Lil Bidman points out that on June 21st, 2024, says the former Sony president's office manager will discuss innovations. Look at this, guys. This flew under the radar. Vein authentication, challenges. Remember how we talked about Mofiria? You know, it's kind of spelled a little bit different. But what they're tackling with the commercialization of AI robotics such as ABO, innovations that will inspire the future to be explained by Jasmy. Now, you can look more into this if you want. You have to interpret it from Japanese to English. You can have an idea about this. And like he says, you know, Mofiria is actually technically spelled with an F. But when you go to the Sony official announcement, it brings you to this old post. And guess what? Look where this all started, guys. This started a while back, and I'm not going to harp too long on this because I want to respect Ruth's time. It's a press release. Sony, were you aware, announced back in 2009 that they want to develop a compact size, high speed, high accuracy, finger vein authentication technology dubbed Mofiria. Wow. And to have Jasmy part of the mix, now some people are going to be like, no, there's no way. There's no way because Jasmy didn't exist then. Right. But what do you have as far as your plug, your connector to make this all happen? Now, why am I connecting this to some of this other stuff? And why are we going back this far? Well, let's take you to this because it is worth pointing out. And back to this real quick. This is straight from IT News Pro. And you may be also wondering about this. This is interpreted from English, or I should say Japanese to English. And if you want to go to it, it's it-news-pro.com. But basically speaking, it's these events coming up. The 9th event, Friday, June 21st, 2024. Back to this whole thing of biometric authentication and so on. Former Sony CEO, look at that, speaks about vein authentication innovation, Mofiria's challenge. Huh. And it goes on to also mention some of these things on these key dates and so on, right? But it's understanding, in my opinion, the bigger picture, creating the future with Sony's DNA. Again, go back to that original headline. Look at this for a second. back in March 30th, 2023, solving social issues with Web3 and blockchain, risk management and digitalized society. Risk management. If you were to read the Jasmy white paper, talks a lot about risk management. And remember the other day when I was talking to you guys specifically about the whole thing of what? All those job listings for Sony in regards to data management, catalog, all these things. So I do think it's a very, very big deal. And I want to jump over to this part real quick. And again, I'm not going to make this too super long. But the point is going over to some of these key things to have you guys have an understanding of why we share this. So this is from mapion.co.jp. That's mapion.co.jp. It's a press release. It does mention Jasmy, July 30th, 2023, roughly a year ago. Why am I sharing this? Just real quick, look at this for a second. You will see here this announcement. And what does it say? Jasmy does what? Excuse me. Develops authentication solution that eliminates the need to enter IDs and passwords. All right. And I'm not going to get into all this because I don't want to make a super long deep dive. We've done enough deep dives about biometrics and so on. But it's all there. You mentions Aplix, Mofiria, right? Mofiria. Right. So check this out for a second. Your highlight of the night, your boilet mash it, stick it in the stew should be this. Should be this statement right here. Why? Well, let's take you over to this. Let's take you over to plaid.com. Yeah, Plaid. Now, guys, I want to state this. How many of us have used Plaid? How many of us use Stripe? But you know what? Like I have Wells Fargo. They have Plaid. There's other banks that use Plaid. Is Jasmy going to be the next Plaid? Now, some people say that's too bold, man. That's clickbait. Call it whatever you want. Why would I state this unless I could back it up? Check this out for a second for yourself. This is big. So you will see on even the Plaid site, more customers minus the fraudsters. Verify good users and stop the bad ones in seconds. Seconds. You know, we talk about, for example, let me shrink this down a little bit more because it's not showing the lady's face. But, you know, this scans the lady's face. Even with Stellar, they kind of have something like that similar. But what about the whole thing of a vein, right? Instantly. This represents back to what? This statement. Not needing an ID, not needing passwords. Jasmy can be the all-in-one package for things like this. How so? Well, kind of like we see on Plaid.com. Verify identity data, confirm that information against regulated data sources in seconds. Right? What about Web3 all-in-one package? Yeah, you know where we're going with that. Shows ID card, as we know, when it comes to my number, they're implementing that into all of Japan. And that would be the flip of the switch moment for Jasmy. Just a tad bit more about this. Privacy requests. This is from Plaid. Access, delete, and other data protection rights. But what about having something to automatically do it without having you to manually say yes or no? This other part. Check this out. The most trusted digital finance platform, connecting thousands of companies to millions of customers for faster, safer, and more seamless financial experiences. Remember, Jasmy is entering into finance democracy? Do you see how it all comes together? Like it says, all you need is to onboard new customers, fight fraud, move money, make better risk decisions. But the other thing I want to share real quick with you guys is this. Notice it says it's greater than 100 million user network. Guys, what is Jasmy looking to do? Over 103, 104 million PDLs? Just because you don't get news officially about all this stuff, understand the greater, bigger picture. You're still early in Jasmy. You're just at that next step. The first bottom step was bottom 0.0028, right? We're at the next step. Support of over a penny and a half, 2 cents, and so on, where we take it to the next level. For some people say it's too late for Jasmy. Is it really? You're only too late if you have that in your head. It's all about how long you're willing to hold these particular assets. Just a tad bit more about this. This is my own notes I want to get into real quick. So Plaid, hear me out on this real quick. As of April 7, 2021, Plaid had a valuation of 13.4 billion with a B after raising 425 million in a series of D funding rounds. Understand, even with Jasmy, when we talk about Shinzo Abe, 2015, startup rounds and so on, right? Having the United States even work with Japan when it comes to private sector, as Taro Kono would point out. But as of March 2024, Plaid had raised a total of 733 million from investors, including Andreessen Horowitz, Altimeter Capital, Index Ventures, and Coetu. Plaid is the third most valued fintech startup. That was the key thing I mentioned here, guys, is startup in the US after Stripe, which is at 74 billion. And I'm telling you flat out, you got to understand the bigger picture, because when we get into the bigger picture, in my notes, I say to myself, when we try to understand the market cap of where Jasmy could go to, most, probably 99% of most people that hold it will paper hand Jasmy. So in conclusion, before we wrap this up, and we are going to wrap this up real quick here in a second, there is a comparison when it comes to Jasmy and also Plaid, and I want to get into this for just a moment. And basically speaking, it's the current model. And it's the shift in data ownership, guys, and the monetization of that. Why is it so significant? Well, with the current model, in the Plaid example that we're giving to you tonight, the data owner grants access to your financial data, but Plaid, the middleman, gets paid. What is Jasmy looking to do with this? Well, as we know, this reinforces the current model where companies profit from who? Your data, while you have a little control over that. All right. What about the PDL, Jasmy's PDL, and what about that potential with that? With Jasmy's personal data locker, this puts you in control, like they mentioned in the white paper. Data democratization. How so? Well, you're going to store your data securely, decide on who can access it, and what conditions. You take control. You take ownership. Jasmy is going to basically collect a fee from companies that want to use your anonymized data, right? For analysis, targeted services, so on and so forth, right? The kryptonite of GAFA M. Notice I also said with the M because that's, you got Microsoft part of the mix now. And it's very similar, if you look at it more, to how Plaid works. This is why I'm bringing it to you guys tonight. But crucially, it could definitely benefit from your data's value. Now, the significance for Jasmy, real quick, 3 things, and we will really, really wrap it up. And that is data democratization, obviously. The model in itself aligns, yes, you heard me right, with Jasmy's goal of data democratization, where users can control and profit from the use of their data if they choose to do so. What about creating a new revenue stream? If Jasmy can successfully establish itself as a secure and user-friendly platform for data storage and exchange, it could generate revenue by facilitating transactions between data owners and even companies that seek to use that data. True. There's, of course, challenges with this, but the point is building user trust in a country that's even more strict than here in the United States was a huge step forward for Jasmy. In understanding the value of data, convincing companies to pay for anonymized data instead of the traditional user profiles. At the end of the day, Jasmy has huge upside potential to disrupt an industry that really needs to be disrupted. What industry? Well, it's GAFA M, and we'll continue to cover this as much as we can. So your key takeaway, Jasmy, could it very well become the next Plaid? And how much would that be worth in itself? And that is only that particular sector, not to mention all of the other sectors Jasmy's part of. Are you going to diamond hand Jasmy, or are you going to paper hand it? That is a question you need to ask yourself and maybe have a discussion with your family about. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, you know, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? You know, I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your, you know, significant other, you could get 2 of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Descent wallet is not having to do the red tape of, you know, jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And, you know, saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out, though, if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that, you know, I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.